It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Hey, welcome everybody. Let's see if anybody shows up for Daily Gun Show in the middle of the night. So back in the olden days when we started the Daily Gun Show back in 2016, I think we were doing it during the middle of the day for reasons, and those reasons didn't, last. So moved it till midnight, or in the middle of the night at least, midnight Eastern, mainly because of the intro. We used on the Red Dawn intro, and just seemed like a thing to do. It's nicer in the evenings here, temperature-wise. And then after many years of doing the show in the evenings and the overnights, I just like the overnights better, honestly. I've had lots of jobs where I was on the night shift, I guess, or worked jobs that were overnight by nature, and I like going out and being out in the night. So very comfortable doing the show in the evenings. There's some really cool radio shows that have happened over the years. I think there's still some out there. Like, doesn't what's his name, Alice Cooper, do a show out of Phoenix? I don't know if it's overnight, but at least it's late. But back in the day, Art Bell did his show in the evenings overnight, and that was super awesome for people that worked at night. So if I'm going to do a live show, instead of trying to do it during the day when people are maybe listening at lunch or something, or listening while they're working, which I guess is a strategy. Like, say, we used to do it that way. Probably get a little bit more participation that way. Started the show without putting up a little gate. And I have a little baby dog here that decided that going outside is the way to go. Now we have one less distraction from a little baby dog. Anyway, so for people that are new, that's why we go live in the middle of the night. So we went live on the Facebook, went live on the X, and we're live on the YouTube. DJs out there, welcome. And DJ, co-host in the past. So I figured go live, talk about a couple of topics tonight. I'm going to get my dog up here. Come here. Back for a while there, a little co-host here had his own little spot up here. So instead of bothering me and distracting me, he could just sit on the counter here and think he was being talked to this whole time. But what happens is he's not used to it. So as soon as I start talking to the wall here, that's what he thinks. He thinks I'm talking to him or something. So he gets all antsy, he starts running around being weird. So now I'm holding him, and we can get back to working here. So like I said, I have a couple of topics to talk about tonight. I'll probably put them down here so that I don't forget them. But I figured let's talk about AI, because that's one of those topics that I think is pretty controversial. Let's say topics. And I think that might be a new running topic for the Daily Gun Show. And then we're going to talk about a couple of other things. Drones. You ever heard of a drone? And the question really is, are drones arms? To keep and bear arms, right? Are arms allowed to go beyond our line of sight? Are they allowed to go outside of our reach? And then, have you ever heard of 3D printing? And I think that's another topic that have all kind of come around since the last regular episodes of this show. So this show started with me and Bob back in 2016. Bob is a Canadian, so this show has been international since the get-go. And Bob came down here because he's got an adventurous way of going, I guess. He just decided to drive down into the United States and drive around for a while. And at some point on his trip, he came to Phoenix, and I was up at a gun show, and he went to that gun show. So we knew each other from gun channels and met and said, hey. And then he went down to Tucson. I'm like, oh, if you're going down to Tucson, why don't we do a show or something, live show? And we did. And we started doing the Daily Gun Show at that point. I can't even honestly remember anymore where it all started, but that was like 2016. It was at the beginning, I think, of 2016. And Bob stayed down here for a little while, and Bob had been doing a show of his own, and I'd been doing a show. So we basically kind of merged our shows, really. And called it the Daily, actually it was called the I Hate Guns podcast for a while. And then we changed it to the Daily Gun Show when we gave it its own channel, I think, something like that. And like I say, back then it was a daily show, but it was during the day. And I forget what time of day, I think in the noon or morning or something. It wasn't like a early morning show or anything. Anyhow, we did that show for quite a while. And then Bob, I forget what happened with Bob. I think, his business, he had some stuff going on in real life and wasn't able to do the show anymore. So I kind of changed it around. Probably when I moved it to an overnight show. I can't really remember. I got to go turn off the fan. I'll be back. So in the meantime, I don't really have any commercials to run. So feel free to comment, ask questions, do your thing. I got a fan that's wearing out that's does just fine when I'm sitting here. But whenever I do a show, it decides to start squeaking. So anyhow, so at that point, I think we started doing the show in the evenings, and then at some point changed it up a bit, and that's when DJ and Barbecue jumped in. And then there was a gap for about a week. I think we've been off air for about a week now, so can't remember exactly. But since what the hell was that? Since we've been back, or since that week gap or whatever, week-long gap, there's things have come up, and that's why I say we'll talk about some of these topics. So I don't know what DJ's saying awesome about, but something is awesome. Let's see. Was a NAFTA arrangement? Yeah, well, I didn't want to do all the labor here in the United States, and there was some incentives from the Carter administration to work with Canadians. They got free beer or something. All right, so DJ saying if you want to put an @ in there, feel free, but it doesn't look like we're going to get a lot of content. It turns out people on X, I used to give them shit because they never commented, but allegedly, unless you're paying X for the privilege, you can't comment on X. So sorry about that, but you can jump over to, what is this called? YouTube. Ask the questions over there. And Facebook, you can comment on Facebook. There's people on all the platforms tonight. Welcome. So the first question is, what, are you up just going to the bathroom in the middle of the night? Or is this, for some of us, this is like 9 o'clock. So this is not the middle of the night for most of the country, just the privileged elite East Coast. It's late over there because they insist on being in their own time zone. But for the rest of us, it's really not that late. But it is later than most shows because most shows cater to the East Coast and they refuse to go live overnight like this. So let us know. What do you think of this overnight slot? Is this something that's worth doing live? But getting back to the comments at hand here, I got to remember all the tools I've got available to me here. I could start my comments and then I can get to them easier, and that's what I'll do. So the first comment, of course, was AI topics. And there's a lot of AI topics out there. One thing to talk about is how most people are scared of AI. And you're wrong. Like, why are you scared of AI? Either you're scared of AI because of fiction, or you're scared of AI because someone wants you to be afraid of AI. But ask yourself two questions. Why do they want you to be afraid of AI, and how come they can't tell you about the benefits of AI? Are they incapable? Do they seriously believe there's no benefits of AI? Why is it that no one is suspicious when both sides of the debate are against AI? Seriously, like, this should be a big warning sign to everybody. I'm pretty much concerned that some of my cautious or my skeptical people out there aren't more paying attention to this whole thing. But both sides are desperately being told to worry about AI and to hate AI. So with that in mind, this is a live show. So a lot of people hate the AI, but you're wrong. But if you hate the AI so much, welcome to a show where there's no AI, right? Like, I mean, that picture might have been enhanced by AI. I took a picture and gave it to the AI and told them to make it better. But aside from that, like, I'm just sitting here talking and I ain't scared. So if you want to bring up questions or whatever, your boilerplate, your regurgitate whatever you've been told about why AI is so bad or whatever, feel free. But really, I'm encouraging people to think about it. Why is both sides so desperate for you to hate AI? Why do they want you so desperately to not want AI around? But I figured I'll cater to that a little bit, or I'll lean into that a little bit in respects that if you're so worried about AI, this is just AI-free show. This is just humans talking here. And I think that's going to be something that we're going to see on at least the platforms less and less of. It's so easy to make the AI content now. And because it democratizes, is that the way to say it? Like, like what people want. Like, having Photoshop was nice, but that didn't make you good at Photoshop, right? Having Photoshop was a great tool, but it didn't give you like artistic ability or anything. With AI, you can just essentially keep saying, no, change this, no, change that, until you get exactly what you want. Or if you don't really know what you want, you can just say, make something, and you can be very satisfied with its first attempt. So in that respect, AI is a powerful tool. So a lot of people are going to default to just using it all the time. And that's, I think, one of the frustrations people have, is seeing so much of it. And this is going to be an alternative to that. This show is live, so no AI in here. We're not depending on AI, I don't know, anything really, except for maybe some art in the thumbnails. I guess that's true. I do script some shit, right? I do, not script, but I do have AI write stuff for me, so I don't have to waste all my time writing something. But that being said, I understand people's concern, but your concerns are wrong. They're either fiction or probably generated by the Chinese. Think about that. Let's see. DJ saying it feels like 3 p.m., but the clock says 11. I guess that depends on what time you woke up, right? Let's see. So I have been hanging out a lot in music-related chats, and the AI discussion is pretty, I don't know what that, polemic and heated. I don't know what that word is. Let's see. A lot of the conversations center around the creative process, the arts replacement theory. Well, I don't know. So when you're talking music-related chats, like, that's very open. So, is that like musicians? Is that people that listen to music? Is that, people that like instruments? So people that like instruments are not musicians almost ever, right? Musicians hardly ever, even from my experience, real musicians barely pay attention to their guitars. They make sure their guitars work or whatever, but they don't fuss with their guitars. People that fuss with their guitars almost never play music. They just fuss with guitars. So I think that's, a lot of ways it's like guns, right? Like, you got your people that use guns for a living, and they almost never really like guns because they also have to use, in real life, when you're using guns for a living, you got armor, you got radios, and you got all kinds of crap you got to carry. You got cuffs, right? You got tasers, you got lights, you got dead body cams, right? You got procedures, you got rules of engagement. Like, there's so many things you got to deal with. The gun is just one of those things, and it's actually a complication and annoying, and it means your life's at risk. You got to pull it out. So for most people, that are just cosplaying or having a gun because it's cool or whatever. That's just not the same thing as somebody that's occupationally required to have the gun around. A lot of people don't think of it like that. So I think it's the same way with musicians and music. So, or with instruments and musicians, like maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's the way I've seen it in my experience. But when you get into that, like, AI, it's going to come along, and like, I don't need to, like I was saying with art, you don't need to know much. You just have to know what you want, and you can tell the AI to make it for you, and then edit until you get what you want. Same with music. I don't need to know even anymore anything about music, anything about really anything. I can just say, I like this kind of music and I want these lyrics, and the AI will write it for me. So that being said, it'll be what it is, right? It won't be 100% perfect. But now let's say, oh, that's a bad thing somehow. Like, it shouldn't be. You should have to talk to a human to do that, right? So now you say to that human, hey, I want a country western song that's like an intro to my podcast, and I want it to mention this and this, or maybe even here's the lyrics I'd like you to use, right? So, you might tweak them a little bit, but here's my lyrics. So whatever the parameters you give that human instead of that robot, guess what you're getting out of a human? Whatever they came up with, right? So now what if they came up with the lyrics and you didn't like some of the lyrics? You're going to tell them, or you're not going to tell them, right? You're either going to deal with it the way it was created. Like, I'll take the art as it was created and I'll appreciate it for what it is, and it's different than my original request, but that's, so be it. Or you're going to go to that artist and you're going to say, hey, tweak this. I really want this lyric. I appreciate what you did, but I really want this lyric. Can you edit that? And what the hell is the difference between asking a human to do it and asking a robot to do it, honestly? Except for, I don't know, some morality people are attributing to it, or some fiction that people are tripping on. So I think it's the same with everything else. Do we want robots to look at our scans? When a magnet or a CT scan or something comes through and scans us and looks at all that, all those little tiny slices of our body. Do we want to depend on a human eyeball to find the issue, or do we want the robot that knows every single issue that it's ever experienced and remembers them? And do we want that to diagnose our scans? So do we want that to be scanning our skies for missiles, or do we want humans with binoculars? It just makes no sense. Like, we have radar. We don't go, oh, we want radar's too scary. What if radar takes over the world? So we'd rather just have guys with binoculars watching for missiles. It just makes no sense. But DJ saying polemic, clearly divided at the extremes. Okay, so basically polarized. The individuality tip is, to me, the disconnect. AI is as close as people get to the faceless replacement of what they know is familiar, even more what the world means and how we agree on it together. I don't know what all that's saying. AI is as close as people get to the faceless replacement of what they know as familiar. So what do you mean? Like, just like a reflection of the culture or something? Like, oh no. Again, so when you look at art, Charles Schultz or Rockwell, what was that guy who made the pictures back in the old days? I think it was Rockwell. Whatever those guys are, they're just taking, in their brain, or Mark Twain or somebody, right? Like, whatever kind of art it is, you take, or some songwriter, right? Who cares? Whatever kind of art it is, that's a human taking a bunch of experience and turning it into meatloaf or hamburger, and cooking it up and spitting it out in a way that everybody digs, right? So again, who cares if it's a human or a robot doing that? Thing about a robot is it's doing it, based off of an equation, I guess, or based off of some parameters, where a human, you got a little bit of who knows what in there. But right now, again, who really cares? Like, the issue is being stoked by people who have an agenda, people who have skin in the game. That's my question. That's my reason for bringing it up. In the big picture, again, like, name another type of tech that people have, been concerned about or rallied against as it was introduced. I like to use the cars because it's the easiest one. All those horse and buggy people, all the trains, I guess, all the bicycle people, they would all have been against that car when it first came around. Then motorcycles, like, oh my goodness, so much noise. The streets aren't made for them. The streets are all made of dirt and you're driving around this big heavy thing, horses chew it up enough already and now you're going to ruin it. They don't foresee the future with highways. And the future with highways means that your neighbors are sometimes a quarter mile away from you because there's a highway in between. And that is a different future. But do we not have highways? Do we live in the world where everything is dragged around by horses and limited to the size and dimensions that a horse can drag around? You know what I mean? Like, at some point, even with horses, what do you go, hey, 6 horses is okay, but 18 horses? Like, we don't need to be dragging nothing that heavy around. We'd have to change the streets, So these arguments are not new, and I'm not saying they're not valid. I guess I am. I'm saying they're not valid. I understand that people have them, but I would like you to question them because right now they're being fed to you by people who have an agenda. Like I say, name something else right now that's unified 100% in lockstep. Everybody hates AI. If you like AI, you're some kind of, name what you are if you like AI right now. You're not allowed to like AI. Neither, no matter what side of the political spectrum you are. You're not allowed to like AI right now. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Like I say, that guy versus AI, right? Norman Rockwell versus AI, which is better, which is more moral, which is different. You know what I mean? Like, they're very similar. They're both just some entity that took a bunch of data and is giving you another set of data based on all that, through their filter, through their logarithm. When it went through his biological logarithm, everybody's cool with it, goes through his logarithm all slow and comes out his arm, but very similar product throughout his career. Obviously it changed to some extent as he, got better or got into some habits or whatever, or maybe changed habits or stuff. So like his style probably has a curve or an arc or something to it, very much like AI. So, what we're talking about is scale and like some definition of morality maybe, or some definition of what else would it be if it's not morality? Like, why, there's some reason people don't like the robots, and I suspect it's because the news constantly tells you to hate the AI. So 20th century American guy, and then where's my flying car? So that's the AI. Like I say, we got lots of topics there. I'm not afraid of AI. I quite enjoy it, and I will continue to try to challenge people with the idea that why are you being told no matter what side you're on? I don't think too many people on the right listen to the left or vice versa. Most of the people are listening for confirmation bias or whatever, right? They listen to their side so that they know they're right, and they hear people tell them you're right all day. People dig it, right? And you don't want to listen to the other side because they're saying weird shit. So I get that. I do listen to both sides mainly so that I can try to understand where the bullshit is, right? I think when you listen to both sides, you start to figure out what neither one is talking about, and then also by whatever they prioritize or whatever they're spending their time on, and kind of tell what the special of the day is. We all know they're walking in lockstep, whether or not you believe they're being orchestrated or led by somebody, higher or bigger or whatever. I don't, but a lot of people do. But there are these tendencies for them to walk in paths or in tendencies. So anyway, watching both sides is a way to, or monitoring both sides is a way to kind of see where they align and where they don't. And AI is one of those places where they align. Both sides want you desperately to hate AI. Let's see. DJ says I don't feel any anti-AI heat from above, like at all. It's way more parallel communication in my experience. Not like I'm running into anything specifically anti-AI. Where are you getting this sentiment? From listening. So most of the time when you listen to people, they hate the AI when you just have conversations with people. But then if you look at the messaging, the AI is always skeptical and it's always about either NIMBA, not in my backyard, or the security vulnerability issue, like, oh, why are we spending so much time? Or maybe the you could alternate in the how could the future, how bleak the future is going to be because everyone will stop knowing anything because AI will do everything for us. So those kind of messaging is where I'm going off of. Something's in here. We got something in here. Need to get some mouse traps out. It's easy and obvious to get people to hate something they think is smarter than them, than all of us, I guess. I don't think when there was like the space race that there was a lot of sentiment to hate things that were smarter than you, though. I don't think. So, whatever. So that's the AI stuff. And like I say, I'm a big fan of it. So the AI gets used in a lot of things. And so we'll continue to talk about it a lot. But then to get on to the next topic, we'll talk about drones. And I personally just thought drones were cool from seeing them as toys. Now, some of us that are old can remember, what's a movie with a helicopter in it, like a remote control helicopter? Are there any even? There might be one or two that I can't think of. There's probably like a movie where they used one, like an assassin used one or something. But, back in the olden days of the 1980s and the 1990s, you could buy a remote control helicopter and it would look like a regular helicopter because it was basically a tiny little helicopter. And some of them, the best ones, had like a real motor in them, like with gas and everything. And then you had the most complicated remote control you'd ever seen to try to run this thing. And you had to practice and stuff because people would buy these things and they would set them all up and then they would immediately crash these things. They were so expensive and they were just the worst hobby, the coolest hobby, the best hobby, the worst hobby. Like they were an interesting hobby, but unless you were really good, like you just did not go buy a helicopter back in the old days and just fly it around. So I've always been fascinated because they were super cool. And I knew one guy in Wyoming that had one and he couldn't fly it, but he owned one. And so I got to see one that wasn't all smashed up. I've seen a couple of them all smashed up back in the old days, but I got to see his before it was all smashed up. I don't know if he ever smashed it or not, but almost everybody had smashed theirs because they're impossible to fly. So, or very difficult to fly at least. So whenever they came out with the first 4 propeller drones, I don't even remember when that was anymore. I couldn't afford them, but I thought they were cool because they were easier to fly, right? And then I remember we bought some in Wanamaker one year, and I could kind of fly it indoors. It was a toy, and it didn't have any GPS or nothing, but I could almost fly it. I got to where I could almost fly it, and then I crashed it. And then, I just was a fan from afar, let's say. And then I think at some point, Pink Panther got a second drone. So he gave me his old drone. And his old drone was a decent one with like GPS and everything. And that was the kind where if you stopped wiggling on the joysticks, the drone didn't crash to the ground. It just stayed there. And that was amazing. So I drove that one around a lot and started to learn how to film with them. And that's when I got into them. Now that was a long time ago and wasn't really doing much with it because I was scared to use it. And anyway, years later, I started getting into them more and I got into the DJIs, which are very easy to fly and have really good cameras. So instead of worrying about how to fly so much, you worry about where to move your drone so that you can get the angles that you want for the filming that you want. And that's where I've really enjoyed having the camera drones. So I've been flying them around, just having fun learning how to fly them as cameras. It's a lot of fun, and the effects is neat. You get to see stuff from above, and you get those aerial shots that you can't get with any other kind of camera, right? But at some point, I guess probably with the Ukraine and all that shit, they started becoming more. And you know what else with the whole international border with Mexico, there's a whole bunch of examples of the drones either being used to drag fentanyl and shit across the border, or the cartels down in Mexico fighting with each other with them. So between Ukraine and the cartels, there's been like a massive development in the offensive, defensive, and like armed use of drones. In addition to that, you now have drones that are observational, drones that are like defensive perimeters. You have like these other roles for drones as well. And again, still as carriers, just to communicate, right? It's like carrier pigeons and stuff. So anyway, drones are super useful. They give us a what is that called when you give yourself an improved ability based on tech or based on I guess it's based on technology, but based on gear. So it gives us an advantage. And because drones are like they're not really that expensive, so that's not the issue. Like you can get really nice toys for like $50 or $100, and then if you really want a nice one with a good camera, it's like $250. So I mean, they can get way more expensive, but you can get a very, very good drone for like $250 at this point, and super easy to fly, great cameras, and just go into action quicker than you can imagine. Literally fit in your pocket. So the capacity of these things is amazing, and I suspect we're about to see, and even I guess what I'm getting at, it's not that many people use them, right? It's still like a niche or whatever. It's still like a hobby of just a few people, and they've started putting some bans into effect recently. So you can't. It's already like the essentially for drones, we've had the SKS ban and the 7.6x39 ammo ban. We've also had the you can't import Russian ammo. Like pretty much all the ammo, everything that's been an import ban for guns happened in one stroke earlier this year. I think it was earlier this year, right at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. Essentially, all the bans we've ever had, import bans we've had on guns, happened to drones. You can't import any drone into the United States anymore. I don't know if you know that, but you only hear about the one company, but they literally banned the importation of any drone into the United States. They recently opened it up to little baby toys, like literally baby toys can be imported, but no toys without cameras on them. Like they really got scared and locked down this area of technology. So many people who don't give a shit are not going to give a shit, just like everybody who doesn't care about guns didn't give a shit when they stopped importing guns, right? So that's where we're at with drones. And you might be going, I don't give a shit because I don't have a drone. Well, I think drones are arms, and I think we are severely limiting ourselves, and we're watching our rights disappear as they tell us, well, you can't import these anymore. The rest of the world can. We can't. So the Chinese companies are still making them, and everybody else is buying them. We just can't have them anymore. And somehow that's better off for us. So, we're going to see potentially a future where they're going to tell us, and now that you can't import them, why would you even want these things? Look how dangerous they can be. And then, just the police should have them, just the military should have them, just certain companies should have them. And, that's the direction they don't want to see it happen. And I'd like to see more people understand that you don't have to buy a drone to want everyone to be able to own drones. There's some issue with the FAA, with the airspace, only because there's certain people that, I guess some people think that you shouldn't regulate anything, and like there's not going to be crashes somehow. But, so that gives it a different layer than guns to that respect. But the same respect, at least as the way the laws are now, and until they change laws or something, no one owns air. So yes, there is airspace and it is regulated. You don't want to get in the way of an airplane, obviously. And there's rules of the sky, essentially, the same as there is rules of the road, so that you don't get in the way of an airplane. And that is one of the angles they'll use, right, to suggest that they, regular people don't need to own these things. And, when there's only a few people that are defending something, then that's usually how they get you, right? Let's see, Woods is out there. Welcome. 1984 will be brought to you by drones. Don't like security drones? That's fine. But can't stop security drones. Drones are a thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like a cop car or a radio. So you can not like it all you want. But I like the idea of being able to police without wasting all the gas in the cop car, for example. So you take something like a drone and you put it up with, like not a regular drone that we're thinking of with helicopters, but a drone that looks like an airplane. And you put it up there with a bunch of cameras and you make it look like a glider. And then you put solar panels on the wings. And then those solar panels drive, what do you call it, a little bit of propellers to keep that thing moving a little bit. And that is a persistent drone that can go up there for a long time. And you can put those things up over stretches of highway. You can put those up over wherever. And now you have the ability to monitor, especially with AI involved, you can monitor all kinds of stuff that before you would have had to basically send patrol vehicles out to wander around. Now, I'm not saying you don't want patrol vehicles out for whatever reasons, but now they don't necessarily have to wander. You know what I mean? They might be able to stay put and go out to designated things as, calls instead of just driving around. So again, that might not work everywhere. Some places you might want cops driving around. I don't know. But I'm just saying I don't necessarily hate the idea of drones if they can save a lot of resources and time and do a better job, then I'm down. Now, anything's got double-edged sword or whatever. Everything's got its negatives and its positives. But let's see. Have you seen his movies? This is all about. AI drone patrol sounds like terrible jackbootery. I don't know. Like I say, you can look at it either way, I suppose. There's already highway patrol. Is that jackbootery? Let's see. Highway up. People have not had to think about what being in public meant from the perspective of altitude cameras, yes, but the height that drones reach, no, that's a new thing. Well, yeah, I mean, people have dealt with now cameras being on poles, in parking lots or in security cameras on buildings and things like that. Is that what you're talking about? And they're used to that, but having drones up above. We don't have drones that I'm aware of persistently above anywhere except for like areas of operations and more. But that's only because they cost money at this point. At some point, they won't cost money. Yeah, it used to be satellites, but and who knows if maybe it will be satellites still. I mean, essentially what I just described is a satellite, right? Just way up there. And but I'm thinking drones are an intermediate level. That's, if you have a persistent drone that you can put up, a number of them above a city or above a population area for months at a time, and they only can come down every many months. That means you can change hardware and stuff a lot faster than you can with a satellite at this time. But soon we'll be able to send robots up to mess with satellites. So maybe at some point it'll be a better safety cost situation, because the persistent drone is in the way, right? Airspace, right? It is flying around up there. That means other things can't fly around right there. Thing is, if you think about it, most airports are like big giant funnels, right? The airplane comes in and kind of funnels down into the airport. So not too many things need to hang out right above a city. In fact, it'd be kind of weird for things to be hanging out right above a city. We always get freaked out when airplanes are just hanging out above a city. Usually airplanes are coming in, do that spiral and then land. So probably those drones wouldn't be in the way of anything. The other thing would be like a blimp or something, like a blimp flying around. You'd see that. It would be annoying. A little tiny airplane up there, the size of half an airplane or something, like the size of half a fighter jet. You'd never even see it up there. Plus, they'd probably paint the bottom of it sky color, so it wouldn't, you wouldn't see it. Not flying around amongst the houses. No, we're not talking about that. Again, I'm talking about a glider that has solar powered little propellers on it that's flying at probably close to like 1,000 feet or something, like way the hell up there above where the airplanes are coming into land, and just with good enough cameras that they only have to be decent compared to a satellite camera. there's a really interesting video out there right now that shows what the like not even probably current, just like what somebody owns, but what a military optic can do, and it's showing somebody looking like walking on a mountain, and then it zooms out. I don't know, like 4 miles or something. Like you're like, oh, okay, a shitty picture of somebody walking on a mountain, big deal. And then it starts to zoom out, and then it zooms out, and then it zooms out, and you figure out that they're like on one hill, and they just looked at a guy walking like 4 mountains over. So our cameras are pretty good, and they put one of them on a, like I say, a persistent drone, and it can hang out. Let's see. Visceral, high altitude, it's creepy enough. Drones bring in, yeah, see again, we're not talking about drones flying around. What's going to be flying around close to your house is the delivery drones. So if you don't already have those in your area, get ready. They're out. There's, I mean, thousands and thousands of them already. So they'll fly in, depends on which one it is. I think Walmart flies in, hangs out up in the air and drops down like a little bag to you. And Amazon drops a payload. I think it flies by and literally drops like a bomb on you, a little parachute, pretty sure. So we're going to have different options for, and it kind of depends on what they're giving you, you know, if you're dropping tissues on somebody versus an egg or something. I don't know how far back DJ is. Dirigible. This is all pretty much what we talked about 2 years ago. I don't know about that. 2 years ago, AI was not taken seriously enough that people were concerned about it. Now I notice that I don't see a news article that is pro AI, period. Like there is no anything out there that is pro AI. I mean, seriously, show me an article. Maybe I'm wrong somehow. Just go ahead and just show me an article that's pro AI. Maybe in like a tech, you know, area, like there might be a magazine article or blog or something from like the tech side, or somebody like me saying, "Hey, the emperor has no clothes here. Like, why do both sides insist that you hate AI? Like, why don't they give you a rest? Why don't they even give it a rest? Like, it's just like the Trump thing. If you listen to NPR." They can't say anything about Trump that isn't "we hate Trump" or "Trump screwed up," right? Like they just can't do it, and it makes it very difficult to listen to anything they say because you know they'll say, "Oh, we're impartial," and then they go on for the rest of their entire every single show that's on their network. You know, can't say anything about Trump. So, and the thing is, they go out of their way to bring up Trump. It's like they can't even stay silent about it. And when those folks are the same way with AI, like there's no reason to believe that they're not, you know what I mean, like in lockstep for some reason. And then you go listen to something on the other side, and it's usually different reasoning, but they're also very anti-AI. Like you're not allowed to understand AI, and you can't appreciate what it might evolve into. Only the negatives. Runways out there, welcome. So you seem to be hyper focused on the anti part of this, but the fundamentals of what we talked about 2 years ago are exactly what the last half hour has been. Well, I don't remember whatever. Guess what? I had a lot of conversations 2 years ago, so I don't know what you're actually talking about. But no, right now it's because I just noticed after listening to NPR the other day that or I guess I realized after listening to NPR the other day that both sides are in this lockstep. And since people come and go, I keep saying it because I can tell from the number of people joining and leaving and joining again that people are probably coming and going. So I keep bringing it up. But I think it is a worthy conversation. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made it the first point to bring up. So yeah, I am talking about it. So then what happened? I unstarted and I messed it up. So now I have to go find it because I didn't click on it. But the third part was 3D printing. So I think 3D printing is a little more understandable because I don't think anybody's afraid of 3D printing yet. The antis want you to be afraid of 3D printing for sure, but I don't know of anybody on the conservative side that's scared of 3D printing right yet that I'm aware of. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Vulcans out there, welcome. So let's see, DJ saying, dude, it's the people who are technology aged or already afraid who are way more involved in that kind of complaining. And grandpa's griping completely makes sense. Come on. I'm not talking about grandpas, dude. I'm talking about NPR. You think there's grandpas listening to NPR? There probably are some grandparent age people listening to NPR. But at least the people who are on NPR, they're very young. The guests and shit are pretty young. Let's see, DJ saying the show where we talked about invasion of privacy because of drones, if you could shoot them down, and who owned airspace. So 2 years ago, literally 2 years ago, I would have probably already been a pilot and I would have had info, but more than 2 years ago, I was still just winging it like a lot of people. The pilot course is pretty intense, so you end up learning a lot of stupid laws and stuff because that's what any license is. It's just learning all the things you can and can't do. So after being a pilot and before being a pilot, I would say I'm sure I had different understandings / different opinions on stuff because I didn't know what I was talking about before. It was just assuming a bunch of shit probably, and then once you learn all the stupid rules, then you know why people do stuff or whatever. So what's it saying? I think 3D printing is cool, but I'd never do it. Well, my concern is with the 3D printing topic is that one is 3D printing an arm, right? Is 3D printer, are 3D printers a right? We're already seeing legislation. I can't say if it got passed. I think it got passed. I don't know if it's been enacted, but I believe there's been legislation in suggested and then voted on and then passed, if I'm correct, on 3D printing. And it might be one of those things like passing a law that requires micro stamping, because you make a law doesn't mean that it exists. So if I'm right and they did pass a law about 3D printing, that doesn't mean that anything is going to or can be done about it. It just means that they were able to pass a law about it. Or I'm wrong and it was just suggested. But it's definitely been suggested a number of times that 3D printers should, or, they have wanted to make legislation that would require 3D printers to have some sort of I don't know, what would you call that? Like a throttle on them, a governor that wouldn't let you print a file of XYZ, and right now they're saying guns. So that's interesting, at what point, why is a 3D printer different than, I don't know, like taking a chunk of metal and what's that called? A Dremel tool and just whittling away metal from a big chunk of metal until it holds trigger group, until it holds a magazine, until it becomes receiver for a slide. So what's the difference between the 3D printer? It's on the news, it makes headlines. It's technology that's evolving, so no one understands it because it's constantly new, and therefore people are scared of it / they understand that they can exploit that factor or that situation. I don't know, to something to their constituents, or maybe to appease like a Bloomberg or somebody that's out there with a massive agenda and they're trying to impress them or something, trying to score points. To some extent, I'm sure the antis, people that are anti-freedom and anti-rights, anti-property, are happy to just cause conflict, right? To create headache and to slow things down. I'm sure they like to throw out red herrings or whatever, just fake distractions or whatever. So it could be just as simple as that. Sometimes they're just out to make face or, make a few bucks or to get famous for a second. It could be a combination of all these things, obviously. So, yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Then Woods is saying both 3D printers and drones are definitely part of 2A, like knives, like as far as arms go. 2A is arms, not necessarily guns. I think everybody can agree with that. Let's see. Then DJ saying would agree about drones, but why 3D? Is it a right to own? No. Is it a right to make our own arms? Yes. And I'm pretty sure that's been established. The right, or wait, how does it say? If there's some saying about if you can't exercise the right, and they've done that with like ammunition and magazines and other things. Ron is saying I want to 3D print the drone with a cannon. Again, when you're talking about getting into the airspace, doing something on the ground is one thing. When you bring it up into the airspace, just like having a car, you're going to have rules that you get entangled into because of where you're putting it. So yeah, as soon as you drive that thing into the air, you would not want to have any kind of munition on it, unless you like federal heat. Let's see. SVG is out there. Welcome. Let's see. ICG&J is saying I see 3D as a First Amendment also. I think there's something valid to that. And here's a question. So the things that we've talked about that are kind of like new topics that are still gun related or Second Amendment related, being AI, the drones, and the 3D printing. If this is possible for you, go back. Let's go back to 2017. So, or should we just go back to 2015 and make it a 10 years? So let's go back 10 years. In 2015, I don't know what was going on in your life, but think about it. Whatever it was 10 years ago. So however old you are, it was 10 years younger. And I don't remember, I don't really pay attention, so I don't remember who the politicians were or whatever. But what the issues were in 2015, I can remember that a little bit as far as the gun stuff, because, where we were at, we had endured the threat of Obama's executive actions, his 23 executive actions, and that like new strategy of the anti-rights people to use presidential authority to strip away rights, and that never really happened. It was threatened, but it never really happened. So in 2015, I would say collectively the industry, the community, gun owners were sort of sighing, not making a victory lap, but certainly feeling as though, a sigh of relief. Like what we all kind of held our breath and waited for the onslaughts and were ready to fight. And small skirmishes happened, and there was no fight. So in 2015, the industry was sort of rebounding from that. It was also suffering from a bit of the end of a rush to buy guns because of a panic, right? But now this is the part I can't remember anymore, because I must have been buying some guns, but I wasn't buying guns like a maniac or anything at the time. So I can't remember. And I definitely wasn't shooting a lot of guns at that point, but I can't remember what the ammo situation was like, because ammo shortages and that kind of thing always, play a role. But in 2015, it was, in general, it was a decent time as far as the gun community goes. So the reason I'm bringing you back 10 years is there was no such thing as AI other than movies, fiction. And we wouldn't have called it AI, I don't think. It might have been a term, but, most of us would have just called it like some kind of sentient computer, or like we would have called it Skynet, right? So that was like, as far as we were with AI. And when we think of AI back in 10 years ago in 2015, we probably thought of like talking to C3PO, maybe walk, to one of these spaceships where you can just talk to the control panel or something. But, it would have been more of like, we have a question for you. And then the thing would have answered us with some kind of special knowledge or whatever. But nobody was afraid of it. We all thought of it as a tool. 100% thought of it as a tool. There might have been one or two movies where they were scared of it. Drones. We didn't know what the hell a drone was. It was a remote controlled airplane. There was nothing. We were never scared of a drone. No concept of even though remote controlled airplanes have been around since the beginning of time. As soon as it was an airplane, we figured out how to make a remote controlled airplane. So they've been around forever. They just used to be like clockwork and they were shitty, but they existed. But there was never a concern, never any kind of fear of drones, and until very recently. So that was 10 years ago. And then what was the last one? Oh, 3D printing? I don't even think that was a thing. It would have been replicators on Star Trek still. Like, it was completely sci-fi, right? Like, there was no 3D printers in 2015. So that's the amount of change we've had in 10 years. Now I might be off by a year or two, like maybe 3D printers exist or something, but you know what I'm saying? 10 years ago, our minds were on other things completely than AI, drones, and 3D printing. But in that 10 years, they've become essentially just a part of our lives, I would suggest. I don't think anybody would be surprised if a kid or a friend or somebody got a 3D printer. If you went to work tomorrow and somebody decided to get a 3D printer, nobody would be like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. We're making things out of thin air. Like, that's not everybody knows what they are. They're appliances at this point. There are appliances that it's like a rice cooker or a bread maker. Like, oh, it's a specific appliance that, oh, you must like making bread because you bought a bread maker. Like, you must like this appliance. But aside from that, nobody's impressed by it anymore. It's not a novelty. Maybe that's the way to say it. You bought a drone. Nobody gives a shit. It's just a thing. So what I guess I'm saying is, what do you think the next 10 years got to hold? Do you think AI is the end? Like, AI, like, we figured it out. We're done. Like, it's either all over or it's open. The future is bright. Or what do you think's next? Like, do you think we're done? Now, if you have a specific idea, feel free. I have a couple of ideas, but I'm really just saying that it's like a general question, or whatever you call it, like an open-ended thing. Like, really think about how drastically things have changed in the last 10 and where you think we're going in 10. Vulcan said CanCam has been around for a while, for sure. But the idea of having like a 3D printer that's a couple $100 and that you can buy the color that you want, or it can do 2 or 3 colors. You got toys falling out of it at this point. Not even a big deal. Woods is all doom and gloom. Sky's always falling for Woods. Next 10 years, 1984. I mean, are we already in 1984? 10 years ago, if someone said, hey, you can drive around and the police cars have cameras that sniff your license plates. So that's one. There's companies that put out cameras and they'll sniff your license plates. That's specifically what they're for. And then the police have contracts with those companies. Like, that's a thing. We got those Ring doorbell cameras. Those sniff your license plates and look who's driving and what bumper stickers are on your car and all that. That's a thing already. And, I could go on. There's probably more than that. I'll bet you some of the like ATM cameras and shit at this point are probably hooked up to all that. So if they need to, somebody's like, hey, I've been over here all day. They can go, well, your car wasn't. Like, we have your car on 18 different cameras all around town. And because they can link them all together, we can tell where you've been all day. Like, is that good or bad? Like, is that 1984? Because that's where we are. And if that is where we are, which it is where we are, like, is our lives different? So, is the slip to 1984 so subtly slow that it will take 3 generations before it's ugly? or is it just a fiction of whatever? Was Huxley in like 1950 or the 40s when he wrote that? I mean, he was writing about the future, right? Like, I can't remember when he wrote that. Was it as early as like the 30s? But whenever that guy wrote it, I think he was probably writing about kings and like Nazis and shit, right? He wasn't writing about what we got today. And I think that we're due for like a 1984 written with like more contemporary heroes and villains. Maybe I'm just talking shit. Oh, let's see. DJ seeing the first Minions. Oh, you're just talking about what shows came out in 15? I wouldn't know nothing about the Minions movies because, I mean, I've seen them, but I could care less. Force Awakens. I don't even remember which one that was. And the Mad Max one, I could care less. Like, I don't keep track of those either. I keep track of the real Mad Max movies, not all the recent ones. He wrote it in the 30s. So, you know what I'm saying? He wrote that about, like, whatever was happening in the 30s, like weird kings and queens and shit. So we strap our modern shit into 1984. I'm ready for a new 1984. Not a remake of it, you know what I mean? Like a more appropriate, something that's afraid of more appropriate stuff. All right, well, we've been going for an hour or whatever. I'll throw this out there. I'm going to try to set this up so that, using the robots to throw this into a podcast. So people who might be listening on the podcast platforms get a chunk of this and can listen to it. But here's the thing. It's a daily gun show. We've been doing this since 2016. We've taken like 3 breaks ever. Otherwise, it's been every single day since the beginning of 2016 with just a couple of short breaks and reformatting the show a little bit. And it's not AI. So if you're one of those folks that's deadly scared of AI and you are adamantly anti-AI, there's no, except for like the images. I technically have my robots make the images for me, I guess. But none of this, there's no script. It's not like some kind of robot talking. And so I'm talking and typing at the same time, so I'm not doing a good job. But trying to make sure that it gets scooped up now and goes into the podcast. So I'm not only talking to the folks, there's dozens and dozens of folks listening right now. Not that many people typing, but thanks to the people that are joining tonight. But we'll record this thing overnight, and the people listening to it as a podcast can listen to it whenever they want. But give us some feedback. Let us know what you think. Let's see. I'll be here to remind you don't trust robots. Well, again, like you're going to not trust R2-D2. So, if we're going off of fiction, there's good robots and there's bad robots. You got to trust our Darth Vader or you got to trust R2-D2. You know what I'm saying? DJ is saying the Brave New World is the inversion of Orwell's 1984. Have you read it? I've only read 2 Huxley books. You should read Doors of Perception by Huxley. You might enjoy that one, DJ. It's called Doors of Perception. It's very short. So Brave New World is the inversion of 1984. 1984 is the boring ass one where everybody's looking at you through your TV and the guy hooks up with the chick and they go to that room and it's boring. And then does he run away at the end? And Brave New World is even more boring and it's also black and white. I only know the movies. The books I read when I was a little kid. So that's interesting. Orwell Brave New World is Huxley, right? Who made Animal Farm? Orwell. So I like, I'm getting Animal Farm mixed up with Brave New World, I think. But anyway, all of those are essentially concerned or fearful of like totalitarian and fascist regimes. And, we just don't live in that kind of stark political worlds anymore. And there's not borders the way that there were before. But either way, I have to remember the movies. More class system. Yeah, exactly. But I like Animal Farm. It's cooler. It's got animals in it, and it's easier to deal with, easier to remember. But anyway, so for the people that are listening to this as a podcast, like I say, give us some feedback. If you otherwise join us in the evenings, for the people that are awake at night, and all those people that take this, what happens at night for granted, they can listen to this as a recording. There we go. We'll leave it with 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, as the co-host would say. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for everybody joining us live.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.